Welcome to the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's podcast episode, I'm being joined by Qichao Hu, Founder, Chairman, and CEO of SES AI, NYSE ticker symbol SES. SES AI is a next-generation lithium metal and lithium-ion battery company for EVs, UAM, drones, robotics, and BESS for data centers. The company is also a pioneer in the use of AI for materials discovery, manufacturing, and battery safety. Also joining us is my WTR equity research colleague, Brian Gordon. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining today's podcast. Qichao, for those listeners that do not know SES AI, can you please provide a quick overview of the company and its corporate strategy?
Yeah, sure. So we've been around since 2012 for more than 12 years. And then we focus on the development of next generation battery technology, ranging from lithium metal to high silicon lithium ion, and then for different applications across drones, EV, urban air mobility, humanoid robots, and energy storage.
Wonderful. I'm going to turn the call over for a few minutes to Brian Gordon to ask some follow-up questions.
Hey, Qichao. There's been some very big transformations with SES's strategy over the past year. There's the launch of Molecular Universe. There's moving into all those new markets beyond traditional EV. And there's been the move into new battery chemistries like the high silicon lithium ion that you were just mentioning. Why these changes now, and what's SES hoping to achieve with these transformations?
Yeah. So, Brian, if you look at what we did really well in the past, is our ability to develop new battery technologies. And then in the past, we focused on one chemistry for one application, and that is lithium metal for EV applications. And we continue to do that for EVs and also expanding into drones and urban air mobility applications. At the same time, we also wanted to expand that development capability to other chemistries and across other markets, and also other customers in other markets have asked us to use this ability to help them solve these problems. So it's not just mass producing the batteries, but mass producing this ability, mass producing development ability. And how do we mass produce development capability at scale? Well, then it comes down to this combination of software and service. So we recently pivoted to AI, and this not only helps us do lithium metal in EV a lot faster, this also helps us expand to other markets and for other chemistries, including high silicon lithium ion. So this Molecular Universe is basically a platform that consists of software and service. So it has several stages. It's a software that helps you discover new molecules for lithium metal chemistry, for silicon chemistry, and for LFP chemistry. And then once you identify the molecules, then the service part comes in. Then we can synthesize the molecules. We can test them in electrolyte formulations and then build batteries, A samples, B samples, C samples. And we can also use our line to manufacture these batteries and then supply these batteries that contain these AI discover electrolytes to drones and then humanoid robots. And then once they are in the field, we also collect data. For example, in the form of energy storage, we gather data, and then this data from the field gets fed back to the training for Molecular Universe.
And why launch Molecular Universe now? What are you trying to achieve specifically with this as a new platform that you're offering to customers?
Yeah, so I think on the financial side, it's going to be a really exciting revenue source. up to now, one of the key source of revenue and the most profitable source of revenue for us has been these joint development services with OEMs. And we announced 3 A sample joint development and then 2 B sample joint development. So why can't we mass produce JDAs, right? If they're so profitable, and then why do we just do 2? Why not 200? Let's mass produce these joint developments. So Molecular Universe is our way to mass produce joint development with car companies, with battery companies, with the electrolyte companies, with cell phone companies, with robotic companies, with any company that wants to develop a new battery. So think of mass production of joint development. It's a highly profitable and then really exciting SaaS model. So that's on the financial side. And then on the technical side, we are seeing a lot of demand from companies to develop batteries faster. And each company, I mean, take the big car companies, big battery companies, they have a couple hundred, couple thousand real R&D scientists, but then a lot of times they have to start from the scratch, or they do pretty much the same thing. Like they're searching for the same answers for the same questions in the same area, and they're not looking beyond. So by providing Molecular Universe, basically we are providing all the potential answers out there. Could be for a EV battery, could be for a drone battery, could be for energy storage battery, or humanoid robot battery. Basically, we're providing all the answers in this one database, and then so you go find it. So this is our way of mass producing this joint development servers, which has been our most profitable and biggest source of revenue.
Yeah, I think you actually anticipated my next question. So it sounds like Molecular Universe is in a lot of ways a continuation of that joint development work that you were already doing with these, EV OEMs.
Exactly. We are mass producing the JDAs.
Yeah. How autonomous is Molecular Universe then, versus how well integrated is this with the team of scientists that you already have assembled within SES?
Yeah, great question. So Molecular Universe, we're going to launch end of April 29th. It's going to have 5 tiers. So the lowest 3 tiers are pure software. So there's no involvement of the human scientists other than just basic IT infrastructure maintenance. So the lowest 3 tiers are just pure software. And then users can use that to find molecules that can solve their technical problems. The highest 2 tiers will have servers. So for example, in the lowest 3 tiers, a user finds a set of molecule that can address their problems. Okay, now they need our help to go synthesize these molecules, because maybe there's 50 candidate molecules, but you need one that's lowest cost, that works, that can be synthesized. Okay, so we can actually synthesize these molecules, and then we test them in actual batteries throughout the A sample and the B sample process. And then we offer you this entire service that goes from finding molecules and having a set of molecule candidates to this final cell design.
Yeah, I think that's exciting, because one of the interesting things about how SES has organized its AI efforts is by incorporating the electrolyte foundry, you guys get to build that data flywheel so that you can incorporate this data into the next generation of your models. So I guess the question is, when you're doing these joint development activities with Molecular Universe, does the firm retain access to that data so that it can build that cumulative data advantage?
Yeah, so we own the entire database, and then we own that. And of course, in the joint development, we have different tiers of joint development. If it's lower tiers, then the software would find it for the user, but then the software will still own that. But then for the higher tiers, if the users actually provide a lot of input, and also if the users require this Molecular Universe to be operational on premise, and they also provide input in terms of their new molecules and their new data, and then if we find new molecules, then we can actually have these molecules be jointly owned. So we will not recommend these molecules to other users, and basically we will actually hide these molecules for a fee, almost like exclusivity fee from the Molecular Universe from other users.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Molecular Universe is a software platform, obviously. And historically, the company has focused more on the batteries themselves. So how do you see the evolution of SES's business model with the addition of these software platforms? How does that change how you guys are thinking about, how are you going to make money as a firm?
Yeah, great question. So historically, our business model has been about servers, right? The JDAs. So servers alone is not very scalable. I mean, a company can only do maybe 3 JDAs, 5 JDAs. Servers alone, it's not as scalable. But software is more scalable. So basically, what we did is we took the servers that we provided and then were very successful at in the form of JDAs, and then we packaged them in this software. So now with the software, now we can do 30 JDAs, 50 JDAs, and not just 3 or 5. So software is more makes the servers more scalable. And then in terms of talent, so well, we did have to build a quite large AI team, and also computation chemistry. Computation chemistry is actually really important. It's probably just as important as the AI piece. Think of computation chemistry. You need them to build the map, to map all the physical chemical properties of all these molecules. And then the AI, think of that as like the navigation system. So you can type in a question. For example, in one of the JDAs we have is find an electrolyte that can reduce lithium metal swelling, or find an electrolyte that can reduce high silicon swelling. You can actually ask the question in natural language, and then it will find electrolyte formulations and the molecules in this database, which was computed by computation chemists that can address this joint development question. So that's on the hiring a new team. And also our original human team, human scientists, the human scientists that work on the servers, we do take all their knowledge. We constantly ask the human scientists to ask questions, provide answers, and then provide reason. And all these we document, and then we take all this to train our models. We do take so the basic model, we just take an open source one, but then on top of that, we provide a lot of battery specific trainings. There's a literature out there, books out there, but then internally, the internal data, internal meetings, the human scientists go through extensive writing of very well curated questions, answer, and then reasoning. And then we found if you take a large basic model, after going through these battery specific training, it becomes really smart in this battery domain.
What's really exciting about that is that it really helps the film build a moat, because that is the kind of proprietary data. When you take the computational chemistry, when you take the bench scientist, when you take the modeling that you're doing, that provides a resource that would be very hard for a rival to emulate or imitate.
Yes, and I mean, so our basic model, we use like DeepSeek or Llama for the open source ones. But if you ask them the same question, you get very shallow answers. And then if you ask us, you get much deeper answers with more reasoning, and also you get to search against this proprietary database.
That's really exciting. SES's work in AI, though, obviously goes well beyond what you've been doing with, the materials discovery for new batteries. Could you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing for AI for manufacturing and AI for safety, and how that then complements what you're doing with Molecular Universe?
Yeah. So our vision is eventually you can go from designing a new material to high throughput testing of the electrolyte, to manufacturing the battery with the best quality with AI for manufacturing, and then to final deployment and field testing, the whole process without a single human. So Molecular Universe, we can do the material discovery and the electrolyte formulation, and then the cell manufacturing. Actually, if you go to a lot of these large scale manufacturing lines, they are what's called lights off factories, like no lights because no humans working there. It's fully automated, and then so they are driven by a set of standard operating procedures, which are governed by these quality control points. So AI for manufacturing, what it is it gets trained on the manufacturing data. And then, for example, in manufacturing, you have different tiers. You have the lowest tier, which are these quality tests you do for all the cells. Okay, that's not very interesting. But then you also have higher tiers. You have these more expensive quality controls like CT, X-ray that you do for maybe 5% of the cells. So that means 95% of the cells do not go through this test because of cost and the speed. So you have no data. But AI for manufacturing, you can train AI for manufacturing using this 5% of data that you have, but then you can make prediction on the other 95% of cells that you don't have this data. So AI for manufacturing allows you to make prediction on the quality of a cell without adding more quality control tests. And then the AI for safety is once the batteries are deployed in the field, we get data constantly sent back to our system so that we can monitor this. And then it can give you very accurate state of health and state of charge estimation. For example, if this energy storage system, if the current health is at 32.5%, but the system thinks it's at 33%. So it's going to drain it at a higher current, and over time, it's going to damage the life. So having an accurate estimation, so if it's actually at 32.5%, then your estimation should be 32.5%, and then it's going to extend the life. And also for some near-term virtual power plants where they do electricity arbitrage and they only care about just the initial 2 or 3 years, then you can actually, for example, charge the battery beyond its safety upper limit or discharge it below its safety upper limit and actually make more money during that initial 2 to 3 years. So, and then if you combine all three, materials, manufacturing, and then safety, then you get this entire loop. And then you can not only speed up the discovery of new materials for a new battery, and you can also improve the manufacturing process improvement because you can optimize the quality control points much faster. And then once it's deployed in the field, you can really guarantee the safety because you're constantly monitoring that.
Yeah, so it's not even just better batteries and improved yield on manufacturing, but you're actually improving the performance of the battery in its end application. So you're improving the unit economics, correct?
Yes. And then also, if there are defect cells, we want to catch the defect cells before it escapes to the field.
That's great. I mean, I'd be remiss though if we didn't talk a little bit about what's happening in some of the individual markets, because there are a lot of moving pieces there. If we focus on EVs first, what progress has there been in moving from B samples to C samples and ultimately into production? And I guess the question that people have is, when will consumers actually be able to buy an EV with an SES AI battery in it?
Yeah, so in terms of the B sample to C sample, we are making good progress. And then one of the, we talk about once we get a C sample, we do plan to do this joint venture where SES, an OEM, and then a larger battery manufacturer, we will join force to manufacture these cells. So that's still the plan. And then one of the features of Molecular Universe is we would teach lithium metal, A sample and then B sample through Molecular Universe to a large cell manufacturer. And then in return, they will manufacture this at scale. Because once you get a B sample to C sample, one of the most challenging thing is cost reduction. And then for you to go from, say, $1,000 per kilowatt hour COGS down to $50 per kilowatt hour COGS, you actually need several billions of dollars in investment. So that we're going to partner with a larger cell manufacturer and then use their existing lithium ion lines, because again, lithium metal can leverage existing lithium ion manufacturing, and then use that line and then meet the cost target for C sample.
That's great. In the fourth quarter of last year, you guys introduced your new 21/7 lithium-ion batteries, and you talked specifically about how that could open up new markets. So could you talk a little bit about those sort of new markets in drones and robotics? And is that also going to be a product that will sell into the urban air mobility market as well?
Yeah. So for the products, again, these are batteries for mainly the drones market, but also robots and then urban air mobility. These are batteries that have either lithium metal chemistry or high silicon lithium ion chemistry that use the electrolyte discovered by Molecular Universe. Our plan is we actually make some of the pouch cells in-house, leveraging the A sample and the B sample lines. And then for the 2170, we have those contract manufactured. And then, yes, we are currently selling that to some drones customers. So different customers would prefer, some prefer pouch, especially ones that want the bigger cells. Some prefer the 2170. I mean, there's pros and cons, but then for customers that prefer 2170, it's a standard, industry standard form factor. So you don't need to custom make the cell and then change a line for different customers. You have this industry standard format.
So that's then more of like a drop-in to an existing product.
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe one last question before we close. And again, I think it was in the fourth quarter, you guys talked about the battery energy storage market for data center and compute. Could you talk a little bit about the opportunity that you see there?
Yeah. So if you look at, and there are other reports out there. So if you look at energy storage, I think front of the meter is expected to grow 3x from now to 2030. Behind the meter, commercial and industrial is expected to grow, I think, 7x from now to 2030. Data center is expected to grow more than 20x from now to 2030. So data center actually is growing very exponentially. And then it's interesting for us because now we as an AI company, data centers are both our vendors for the GPU compute as well as our customers. So we can also supply these energy storage batteries back to them. So this market is growing at least 20x from now till 2030. And then also a lot of these don't have battery solutions, so they need battery solutions. Some of them are big, some are more fragmented. And then so for us to both be their customer on the GPU side and they also supply batteries to them, one, we get revenue and then healthy margin, healthy cash flow, and also we get data back. So we can have more proprietary data that we can use to feed back to the Molecular Universe training.
Great. Thank you, Qichao. And let me hand it back over to Tim to wrap up the podcast.
Thank you for joining us today, Qichao Hu, founder, chairman, and CEO of SES AI, NYSE ticker symbol SES. And thanks to my equity research colleague, Brian Gordon, for joining us today as well. We would also like to remind everyone that SES AI will be doing a live demo of Molecular Universe on April 29th. You can find more information on the company's investor relations website. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, my WTR colleague, Joe Brunetto. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, and conference schedules. We will see you the next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight Podcast.